worst part of having a 30-minute talk if you have 20 minutes left. So I'm going to do it the best I can. Welcome to Reversing Engineering COVID-19 for Fun and Profit. I hope that you all have your samples, because I'm not going to provide them. Jokes apart from that, the objective of this goal, considering you all have 20 minutes, is to explain the thing that I created over time to automate things around bug bounties, just to generate some interest on the cloud part, because my surprise came some months ago when I was talking with people that was more devoted to bug bounting, and they didn't have automated things, and they did many manual processes. So in the end, I spent some time doing these things than exploiting bounties. That's the thing when I say only fun, because I didn't get any profit from that. When I have some time, I prefer to integrate some things and improving automation than explaining it, actually. I'm going to skip this. I don't know if you have seen this Rooted in Jesus 2020, Rooted 2020. It's some silly thing. I don't have time for that. I don't like to talk about me because it's not relevant. I like to do web application things and bounties. It's quite curious. But from this talk, if someone believes it's not very interesting and thinks he could do it better, it's your fault. You could have come here and tell your story. No, everything is the same. The speeches, the talks are worse and worse, and someone like me has to come and tell something about the Google Cloud. So there's nothing better. So if someone doesn't like this speech, it's his fault. For me, the automation part and recognition part in book bounties is the easiest part and the fastest thing to automate. And what I said first, I'm surprised that people that haven't found, some people have scripts and whatever, but there are a few people who had created something solid. If you're used to the cloud, AWS, the Google Cloud or whatever, and you have used it before, or even you're using it to run this bounty thing, I don't have much time. I'm going to skip this fast just to generate curiosity. You look at it at home or ask me questions afterwards. What are bug bounties? What's this? You find a vulnerability and money, and some people give you money for finding it. That's great. As a concept, it's great. It's very funny. But how many of you do bounties? Please, hands up. Few people here. Have you ever tried a bounty? Never. Okay. Well, let's. Are you familiar to this? To duplicate closed. This is what happens when you dedicate more than 5 hours to bug bounty, because you think you find something, and usually there has been a 15-year-old guy in India that has reported it 15 minutes before you. So you see nothing. They have duplicated it, and that's it. As I said, bounties are interesting. It's very attractive because you find a vulnerability. You let you play with applications and real hacking, and do real hacking, but that makes that many people is interested and start fighting with you for the same things. So duplicate. That's what happened. Everything. So in the end, you spend a lot of time trying to obtain something, and you have nothing left. That's my experience with bounties. When I started, I found several things. They're interesting things. You have fun for a while, but if you devote all your free time to obtain something, spending several days to review an application to find something, you exploit it, you get the proof of concept, you document that, you send a report, and it's applicated already. It's like, okay, I pass on that. That's a cycle. So that's the moment when I decided to move on. So it seems that you need to go faster, so that no one overpasses you, at least with things that you can report automatically. Things that can be reported automatically and are quite usual. There are other vulnerabilities that can be automated, but everything that's subdomain takeovers, hidden, forgotten paths, files forgotten by all URLs of a company that can be exploited too. CV vulnerabilities can be exploited too. A specific version has a known vulnerability. You can obtain that with the dirty Nessus. You can try that. And also misconfigurations on applications. Someone who has configured something in a bad way, and it can expose a specific resource in a path, and you will find that. Other things that are not that fast to automate but can be automated too are the fact that you, as a bounty hunter, can find very quickly all the objectives of a bug bounty program that using a specific technology. For instance, you're using a bug bounty program or you're developing it by hand. You find a vulnerability in a plugin in WordPress, and you said, okay, I have 95,000 subdomains using bug bounties, and I wanted to know from all those domains which one had WordPress to see if they have plugins and try it everywhere. You can do that. It takes a little bit more effort, but you can do it. Well, this overlaps with specific response and requests. I found a configuration file in this specific path in this application. I haven't found it before. It turns out that it has credentials or whatever, and you want to do the same check. If I want to, following this request at this format to this place, I can find the response, something in the response, something that it's useful for me. In the same way, as we said, not only detecting known vulnerabilities, but also finding them very quickly and launching them very quickly, because otherwise we'll be faster than you, even if it's by chance. And I don't know if you know about this bug bounty. There was a guy who get 10,000 hours of reward in WhatsApp with a local file injection, but a book, a tutorial injection. And the guy wrote the write-up, and as I received an email on WhatsApp, I put the commands, and I had these. You read those write-ups, and you don't want to do bounties anymore. So that's why I say reacting quickly is very important. What's the goal of what I'm automating? All this enumeration of subdomains. There are 1,000 tools, but at least having all of them running in an automated way, detecting HTTP services, because most things, I'm not going to say a percentage because it would be lying, but most of things are in web application. There are a few people who have TCP applications. You do the fingerprinting of HTTP services to, as I said, find specific things. Not long ago, there was an exploit for SharePoint, and it was the same. There's an exploit in SharePoint. A Chinese guy, a tweet with Python. I cannot throw this to whole internet to see if it falls down. But if you have the endpoints detected, you can break it down, and maybe you can get something. Also, on the URLs that are in Wayback Machine on Common Crawl, all the crawling of the website, everything of all this is automated, and keep the results to use them afterwards. Imagine you find a combination of parameters that offer a specific vulnerability, cross-scripting in a web that has a weird name, and you want to see if that same format of URL is in any other of the companies that have bounties. So you just check your database and see if there's something. And then another metadata, for instance, if you want to, imagine that you have an endpoint which is an API, and you don't have any information about the API, which is not documented, and you want to know which parameters are processed by that API. It's very useful to have a list of the parameters that are commonly used along that company to run this force brute attack in that API and see the response changes if you have a specific parameter. I'm overlapping time. I'm over time. Things that were difficult to automate, even if it could be studied, business logic, authorization and ethical issues, and vulnerabilities that are post-authenticated, that takes manual work. Problems on not having a good automation. Tools running minimized, don't using the results, not being able to escalate because a script in your computer with a big machine can just break your provider if you try against 4,000 domains. Speed, consistency, and traceability when recovering this in a certain time. I saw this thing in the past. I'm going to go fast. People can leave if they want. Problems of automation. In the case that you are a rich guy like me that I want to be comfortable, the cloud has a cost. But when you're in a small scale, all cloud services are free. I don't know if Google Cloud offers you 1,000 1 million calls before this lambda start charging you for it. And for the storage, it's the same. You have to store a lot of data and access many times to those data so they can start charging you. But it's true that it can be a bit expensive, more than zero, of course, but also a headache. It takes more time to create this. The clicker doesn't work. Where do we come from? Where do we want to go now? And where do I want to live? I started, like everyone, launching things manually from my laptop. As I said, this is a long path. This is a short path, excuse me. Then you start doing your scripts and greps and your huge bash that the magic, which is great, but you start having problems that you cannot leave your laptop overnight. And when the end map is half of the way, you say I have to go, I have to close the laptop or whatever. So you have launching things remotely from VPS or whatever, and then you reach something like I have an interface to interact with my system. I can tell a command and it does it itself, and afterwards it will launch a result. The most frustrating thing is I know what it is. From what I have now, for me that's crap. The ideal situation would be to have something that auto-escalated, that you passed 1,000 domains if you wanted to, and it acted the same way, that the results were recorded in the place they should be recorded, and everything is fine. I'm going to skip this fast so that we can discuss more about the subject. For those who don't know anything about cloud services, I'm going to just go quickly over each faction to see which things you could use for automation of bug bounty. The functions or lambdas are a piece of code that you can give to the provider and it runs it for you. In most common cases, the thing is that they just open an HTTP endpoint to which you make a request, you process your things in your code, and you act consequently. For instance, what do we use it for? It's like a simpler version of an API. So I have a piece of code there that processes everything you pass through the API. So you can pass both Slack commands to launch Slash commands to the Slack, and you need an HTTP endpoint. And the same for a terminal tool that I'm going to show you afterwards, because in the end I feel comfortable with this terminal and doing grabs and pipes and everything, and this was quite useful. Storage, which is buckets in AWS and Google Clouds. It's called, I think it's just called storage. It's like you have like a folder in remote to which you can send a lot of files, and that's it. The good thing is, apart from having the API to interact with this, it's a HTTP service with the static files. So you had an HTML with a report that held the screenshots of all the domains. You could see it directly against the bucket. You don't need to create anything new. And that's one of the things I did. So all the tools, all the results of everything I do, I upload it to the bucket and I forget about it. If by any chance VPS fails or it's broken because of scanning, you have the results on the bucket of the AWS on Google Cloud, and that's it, and you don't care. Also, the queuing system. This is a technology which is quite easy to explain, but in which you just send messages and it delivering them to the software pieces that are in that queue. So what did I use it for? To put in queue all the tasks that I want to do. I want you to do an enumeration of a domain. I want to look for or to launch a specific script about this domain. You put it all in queue, and all the instances of your workers that are taking that queue will do it and retrieve a result for you. Other useful things is the Elasticsearch. I don't know if you have assembled this Elasticsearch on your own. It's quite good because with Docker you put it in 5 minutes, but if you have to keep it for a little bit of time, everything gets more complicated. So the Elastic created a service that is Elastic as a service. It's not very expensive. I think it's like $20 per month for instance. So I guess that the things that we do normally, it's more than enough. We can use it to store the fingerprints of all the applications, because Elasticsearch has a research function of full text. You could use wildcards or whatever. You can do Amazon. Amazon, and other thing from Amazon or Apache, because Apache will get Tomcat, Apache web server, everything can come up. It's very convenient for these kind of searches. Very quick summary of what Docker is. The concept of the virtual machine, we all know that. Docker is like if you made up a very small Linux and you start passing things, but contain within your cube. It's very poor explanation. I know that it's very poor, but I don't want to spend more time on that. The real part of Docker is because you can have a script, which is the most dirty thing that you can want to. That it does all your bash kung fu. You put it in a Docker. It's like nothing. Everything's clean. Everything within Docker, everything works, and this is very useful when creating tools or checks. In the end, there are some tools that are not very well developed. So, in summary, doing packing of the tools within Docker is very convenient for these kind of tools, the tools that you can use. I create many Docker pictures, so if you want to use them, but in general, they are public tools you can use freely. I have seen that. This is what happen if you go too far with Mesh and you start launching many very quickly. Kubernetes is a manager of containers, a container management system. You launch this container, Kubernetes is in charge of managing the load, and you forget about it. That's what we should reach in at certain point. And blockchain, it's a joke. No, in 99% of the cases that you will hear blockchain, there's no need to hear about it. Summary. You ask for an action through the CLI or the Slack that I'm going to show afterwards. The task is pushed to the queue. The worker picks it from the queue. It works on it and gives the results. That's it. This is more or less the summary of the small pieces that we have. We have a tool for command terminal. You can request many processes you want, and the same calls through this Slack bot, which is also used to launch notifications. The function of Google Cloud would receive the requests and, for instance, put it in the queue or send a notification to Slack. And from the things that are in queue are being taken by the workers, whatever you have it, or in your machine, in a server, or whatever, because it's going to pick the task, execute the commands, and that's it. And then keep the results in the bucket of Google Cloud. Well, that's not important, that's it. I think I have explained already. The worker picks that. What I said is that self-update everything every time it receives a new task. So if you make a mistake at a certain point, or you want to add a new check or something else, you just need to make the commit to GitHub. Updates the repository and makes the changes and does the task. That's it. Gives the results, and this is more or less the pod of Slack. I will show you afterwards. This is the client, the command terminal tool. You can pass many things. This is the simplified version of the OTD sent to the queue. You can send a streaming. You can all the attributes that you need to process. In the case of scan, one of the things it does is enumeration of domains with a mass, picks all the URLs that have been collected by common crawl over the domain they have passed, together with the domains obtained through from those URLs from the crawl. It merges all the URLs because it launches. I'm testing this because it's a bit more complicated, but the thing of doing automatic crawling, so you can have a list of URLs that have come from common crawl, and you have find right now. Even you can do cross-checking to see if the website is on common crawl and now it's not. All the parameters from the URLs we have found, HTTP services and servers. There's no takeovers. These are tools that are launched one after the other because they are dependent to each other to find the TCP services and go the domains that you need to go upwards. You don't the fingerprints of the diffing and you launch the next one to see if there are new domains or whatever. It allows you to create screenshots, and then Inception, which is a tool which is quite cool, which is the most valuable thing. This is just a summary of functions you can ask through command lines to the tool. I will send the slides so you can ask what does every hit. It gives you the domains that you have. So you want to check something locally, you don't have to launch the emanation of the domains again, because the subdomains are again. You get dbb subdomain paypal.com, and you have all the subdomains on PayPal from the last time it was the tool was executed. As I said, this is dependent from each part. If you want findings, you need this is not correct. You need fingerprints. You need the HTTP services. You want the HTTP service. You need the subdomains. So all these tools that are, or you can request updates of specific things. First, I just want to know there are new HTTP services, so I need to launch the enumeration of subdomains, which is quite time-saving. This is the look when you load something. This is not relevant. This is because you want to find all the buckets from that tree, the Amazon S3, in all the fingerprints that you have done. You're going to do this search, and it gets you back with the JSON. You can do some kung fu with NJQ. And you can do to obtain the host, and you can do whatever you want with that. This is a screenshot from Elasticsearch that has all the fingerprints. In this case, you will search for Tomcat, for instance, and you have all the Tomcats in all the bumpers that you have introduced in your platform. And this also does diffing to see something has changed in the last time you ran this scan. This is very useful because if you're going to do it from time to time, you can see if there is a new domain, if anything has disappeared. This is integrated to Slack notification, so if there's any change, you receive a notification saying, okay, here, since the last time you ran the scan, and now there are 3 new domains, or there is another HTTP service that wasn't before, and that's quite useful. Those who want to go have lunch, it's fine. I've been very fast. That's a summary. Okay, so I'm going to run the demo. I'm going to do it very quickly. I'm going to run the demo of Slack. I'm going to show how slash command work. You can do a /can or adk.com just randomly. I send the request to the function on Google Cloud. The Google Cloud function checks if you do /scan. Let's see if it works. Whatever it should be. This is not a domain. If it's not right, or it would say timeout. It gives timeout because I've been touching things that I shouldn't be touching. Okay, this is not a valid domain, so you cannot introduce crap. You can all the checks that you want. You're here. Okay. This is tool, the terminal tool. Is it right? The good thing about this is that you can do things like get findings, ikea.com. And last time, okay, you see, where's some more? The good thing about this is that as I said, it's just for fun. You can report this to IKEA. You have some SharePoints with debug things and parameters.xml, which I don't know what will it have. Things. It has things. So it's just from because I run the tool, I get the results, and I say, okay, then I look at it. Get takeover paypal.com. Someone reported, so it cannot be reported. There's a Fastly domain, which is related to takeover, and this one, the DMM record, maybe can be reported too. One of the things, or the cool things that we have here is that when adding new checks, I had here, for instance, for the demo, imagine that you wanted to implement this .travis.yml, which the first thing I do is I come to GitHub, file name to colon, and I can see if there's many coincidences, so maybe it's useful to look for it. And if I open Visual Studio to see that I'm not lying, excuse me, This is the file with the requests that it's done and the responses that we look for. For instance, I'm submitting a request here, a get request, looking those files, and any of those files, we look. It looks like if it's in the response. It's a very convenient way to add specific checks for the things that you want, not for specific vulnerabilities, but for any other kind of indicator that will help you to exploit something afterwards. For instance, you wanted to add this Travis.ynl. I copy the JSON so I don't make a mistake. And we said like this is going to be in root.travis.yml. I'm going to say that in the response it looks for language and space. It may work. So in principle, if I get diff provider JSON, let's see, it's not in repository. I'm not just fooling you. If now I do push and everything goes fine, it should do a push in the last change to find the Travis.yml. Where can it be? Just not to launch it against everything. You run findings, ikea.com. Lyft.com. In theory, if everything goes well, and I now change to Slack, there should be a notification in Slack that said, I've done acknowledge that you want to do these tasks, and there will be another one. This should happen at some point, but I touched things that I shouldn't touch. Maybe it doesn't work. I'm going to do a trick, which is to connect in the worker that I have in SSH. Let's see if it's launched. The things I did, not to spend a lot of time of money in Google Cloud. I create one in Contabo, which costs just €4 per month, and that's something that you save. Here's the worker. This is a disaster. Here on the left-hand side, you can see that it has taken the tasks from the executing and the finding task on lyft.com and ikea.com, and it's doing its things, magic things. And when it's done, I hope it should be on Slack, and it should be done. And with the PPT of get findings, you can see if there are findings or not. I think we're going to make it to conclude. Right now, it doesn't escalate well because you have to establish the workers. I have an Ansible playbook in which you define the action they want to conduct on a machine and the credentials, SSH credentials to connect to the machine and do all these tasks. So I have a small playbook that you create a VPS wherever you want, you pass the credentials, and it creates everything, it picks the worker and put it to work. The cool thing, it's cool, but it could be great to have a Kubernetes cluster, all these things shared in Kubernetes tasks, so that you just send the tasks and containers are being created in parallel in the cluster, as many as you need. This is another whole story, so we could make another talk about it. The clusters are scaled from Google Cloud, but they are a bit expensive. I did the test, and it can be quite expensive because it creates a machine, and the machines they charge you per minute, and even small machines, you can just spend like €60 per month very quickly. Improve the notification system is something that I need to do, but also define playbooks, which I'm doing at the moment, in which you can define if there's a machine with a fingerprint that matches with WordPress, then go and execute this another thing. Or if the finding done in test/parameters has found this, then execute these other things. This is what I'm doing, but it hasn't been possible yet. So I think that should be it. I'm not going to go beyond that. I think it's not over. Well, there are things to report. There's a lot of things here. Someone is being reported. This is for fun. This is not for profit. So, as I said, thanks. I apologize for exceeding the time. Just a minute. I think that you are now curious about it and making a little effort on make some competition, become competition for half of the India. So thank you very much.